Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. It is, of course, a new week, and that means that we've got some new updates inbound for Warzone and Modern Warfare 3. Gonna be a bit of an interesting week because of some of the updates that we have confirmed. We got a couple of different gameplay changes, some bug fixes already listed as fixes incoming. So we should expect at least one standard routine weekly update this week on Wednesday, where we'll see new weekly challenges and some of the basic stuff there, playlist updates and whatnot. But it's also quite possible we see some surprise patch note updates throughout this week as well, so we'll certainly have to keep our eyes out for that. Of course, if anything does end up dropping out of the blue, some surprise patch notes or any changes like that, or just some of the standard stuff, you guys know I'll have you covered with all things going on right as they happen, so stick it here for that alongside everything else going on in COD by hitting that subscribe button. And as we get into everything for today, if you enjoy the video, do me a favor and drop a like on it. But real quick, COD Updates has not posted as much this past week, which I guess in theory is a good thing. That means the recent updates have ideally addressed some of the more concerning problems, but they did post over the weekend saying they are currently investigating an issue related to gas mask functionality. Now, you might notice that over the past couple of weeks, really, the gas mask is not working correctly. There are times when you put the gas mask on and you're trying to make a play into gas, you know, are wrapping around a building or into the zone in some way, shape, or form, and it's actually taking out your normal health as if you didn't have a gas mask, but at the same time it's also depleting your gas mask, so it's a lose-lose situation. There's issues with that happening. Obviously, there's also issues where the gas mask just does not deplete correctly, or it's depleting too much in certain situations. It's weird right now. It's crazy that we're still this far into Warzone and the gas mask, a feature from day one, basically evolves every year in some way, still has so many different problems going on with it, but nonetheless they are investigating that, so we could see some updates for that here pretty soon. We also have a pretty decent amount of fixes that are scheduled here between multiplayer, Warzone, and just some global stuff as well. Each of the Trello boards, the multiplayer one and the Warzone one, have a lot of new tags as fixed scheduled, which means either in the routine update this week or potentially in some surprise patch notes, we're gonna see a lot of these things mentioned. So a couple of global issues that now have fixes scheduled for them: the Moors sniper rifle sights all being misaligned, where every single scope or optic you use on the Moors is slightly off-centered. They now have a fix for that. That's obviously a very, very important one. And then also the Beast Glove melee blueprint that you get if you buy all the Kong bundles, you can't put a camo on it if you're using a blueprint for it, so that also has a fix scheduled. That one slightly less impactful than the Moors sights just not being accurate whatsoever, but nonetheless each of those should be fixed here relatively soon. For multiplayer, editing a loadout during a match may give you the wrong loadout, so if you're trying to switch to, you know, a different grenade in the middle of a game, or if you want to change an attachment, sometimes it just completely screws things up and it just does not work. This has been an issue since the start of season 3. Surprise, surprise, major update, game breaking issues, but they do have a fix scheduled for that one as well. And then on the Warzone side of things, we actually have a surprising amount of stuff listed here too. So the texture streaming on PC, where randomly if you're playing in games, specifically it seems like on Urzikstan, your textures just all bug out after a couple of games. It seems doesn't matter if you're playing on ultra graphics or the lowest graphics possible, your game just looks like Play-Doh. None of the trees render in, none of the bushes render in, the ground glitches out and is not actually accurate to elevation, so sometimes it's like you're half glitched into the map. Really frustrating bug there. It also sort of ties in with the Gulag lighting glitches where everything goes like bright white. Really frustrating, like I said, so nice to see that they do finally have a fix scheduled for that. They also have a fix scheduled for match stats, where in-game if you try and view your match stats, they just weren't tracking really whatsoever. They do have an update for that. C4 has been kind of on again, off again, broken since the launch of season 3. They say that they're investigating an issue where there's an unintended delay when you're trying to detonate a C4, and they do have a fix scheduled for that, so C4 should work as intended after that update goes out. Then also private matches on Rebirth, those were disabled because players were going in and cheesing different unlocks and stuff for setups or in-game content and whatnot, so they do have a fix scheduled for that, which means private match on Rebirth will be returning here pretty soon as well. So like I said, a lot of potential fixes dropping this week, and different gameplay updates and changes dropping this week. If we do see any surprise patch notes or anything of that nature, I'll be sure to keep you guys updated right as that happens. But alongside some of those updates, we also have some more standard updates and some different content updates to focus on as well. So the first thing that could potentially be happening this week, keyword potentially, is the introduction of the Infil strikes on Rebirth Island. Back prior to season 3, as a part of the dev call that I was in with Raven, they mentioned that after a couple of weeks, roughly 2 weeks into the season, they'd start to turn on the Infil strikes for Rebirth. And if you're unfamiliar, these are the one-off situations where very rarely in a game, it's going to not be something that happens like every match or even every other match. They said it was going to be pretty rare. One of the locations on Rebirth Island is going to be struck in the Infil, hence Infil strikes. I know, crazy. And then that POI will be different. So they could knock over the water tower. They could blow a hole in the roof of prison. They could knock over the lighthouse. Those things will be starting to happen, and then they're going to gauge feedback on which ones are well received, which ones players don't really enjoy all that much, and then adjust the percentages and the chance of those things happening over time. So those could be starting as early as this week. So definitely curious to see how that plays. Obviously going to change up the pacing and the flow of Rebirth in those matches specifically. Also, while we're on the subject of Rebirth, the high trip LTM that's been going on over this past weekend is going to extend into the next week of playlists as well. Pretty cool gameplay, obviously, with the power-ups or the gummies and all the chests and whatnot, but there was supposed to be a camo that you would unlock for winning this that was actually bugged when the mode first dropped, but that bug has now been resolved. So if you haven't already gotten this and you're wanting to get a free camo, all you have to do is win one game of high trip LTM on Rebirth there. Unfortunately, if you won a match on like the first day or the second day when the camo was bugged, it doesn't backtrack like that. So you're going to have to win another one if you want to unlock this camo, but that's now going to be sort of a quote unquote secret reward that's really not all that secret, lasting until the end of this event. You did hear me mention that with this, the LTM is going to be live all the way throughout the entire event. So that countdown on the main menu for the event is going to directly coincide with the high trip LTM. So if you want to make sure you get it before it goes away, definitely pay attention to the whole event that we've got going on right now. Call of Duty also did something very strange last week, just randomly out of the blue. They dropped a new LTM in multiplayer titled Get High, which is basically just a parkour course, or, like a map, I guess you could say. And the objective is to get as high as possible. I was able to beat this, go all the way up to the top, and you enter what is basically a red door from like Cold War Warzone, and it teleports you back to the start, and you don't get anything, but it's kind of a cool LTM for sure. But it was only live for 4 hours and 20 minutes when it initially dropped, so I imagine this is going to be something that like randomly drops maybe daily, maybe every other afternoon or something like that. So definitely be on the lookout if you're in the multiplayer menu for this LTM to drop. If you're interested in trying it out, you beat it once, you've pretty much kind of experienced the whole thing, but it's kind of a cool different change of pace for just multiplayer gameplay, all based around movement and parkour and jump spots and whatnot. Also, the map is just very, very pretty too, so it seems like that's going to be going on throughout the various different 420 events that we've got going on in game right now. And then lastly, here for this week's update, another major thing to expect on Wednesday is our next set of weekly challenges. Per usual, we're going to have new ones drop for multiplayer, zombies, Warzone. These will grant us access to a new aftermarket part, so always nice to keep an eye out on those. You never know which aftermarket part or which aftermarket attachment is going to be, game-breaking, super overpowered, absolute meta, or which ones are going to be more mediocre. But it also gets you one more check of progress towards that Season 3 Mastery camo as well. So if you care about that stuff, that'll be happening on Wednesday with the routine update. We should also see a playlist update drop for multiplayer there. Warzone's either on Wednesday or Thursday. They can't seem to make up their mind when they want to make those changes, but some of the more standard updates will of course have happening on schedule this week too. That said, that's everything we currently know about some of the major upcoming updates and some of the changes planned for MW3 and Warzone. That's going to wrap things up. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, drop a like on it. And if you're new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button on your way out to guarantee you are always up to date with all things going on in COD. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy. Have an awesome rest of your day. I'll catch you later. Peace out.